This repair is for replacing a power steering pump on a 1996 through 2000 year model Dodge Caravan or Plymouth Voyager that has the V6 engine. If your fluid reservoir is not on the left side, this repair is not for you. So this is the power steering pump, and the whole problem is getting to the bolts. There's 3 bolts, 1, 2, and 3 on the front side of this pump that you have to remove. Of course, in front of these 3 bolts there's a bracket that wraps around and bolts up to the engine block, both here and there. So first you have to remove these 3 bolts, then you have to remove 2 bolts on the rear of the pump, and then you have to remove all the bolts on the bracket that sits behind here. One very difficult part to remove is that bolt right there. Here's the pump removed from the car. There's 2 more things you have to do before you're done with this pump. One thing is to remove the bolts that hold the pump to the pump bracket, and the last thing you have to do is to remove this pulley from the pump, and you've got to press it off. You can't unbolt it, you got to press it off. There's all kinds of instructions on how to do that on other clips. Now the disassembly is not over until you get a special puller kit like this that has a split collar which goes on here, and you pull it. You cannot use a traditional hub puller on this pulley, otherwise it'll break because the material's way too thin. So this is what the hub puller looks like assembled on the hub, and we're going to apply some torque and pop off that hub. One last very important detail. That's the new power steering pump. You've got to put the pulley onto it from the old pump, and the only way to get this pulley off is to pull it off with a special puller. There's a problem. This pulley is made out of plastic. Even though that's aluminum, there's an aluminum hub that's cast into the plastic. You got to be very careful. You cannot put this pulley into a bench vise to turn the hub puller. You got to be very careful with it. And the last very important thing that's not obvious is that the outside of this shaft has to be polished and cleaned up thoroughly. Plus the inside of this hub, which is made out of aluminum, also has to be polished. If you don't polish both of these with wet or dry sandpaper or emery cloth, you won't be able to push this onto the shaft. Last but not least is the question of getting the belt on. The Serpentine belt is very difficult to install on this car. The reason is that the tensioner pulley here is in a really bad position. Not only that, the distance between the bolt on the tensioner pulley and the fender well is very, very tight. So it's very difficult to get a ratchet in there or anything else. So I found the only tool I could use to get the job done easily is to make up my own tool. This is a 15mm ratcheting box end wrench with about 1 foot of nylon cord taped onto the open end. What you do is you place this on the bolt, the 50mm bolt, so on the end of the tensioner pulley. Run your belt over all of the rest of the pulleys, even the idler here. Put it all around except leave it loose on the bottom. This is the crankshaft pulley. The reason is, while you're pulling on this, you're underneath of the vehicle, You can get your hands on this pulley very easily, and this pulley also has a very shallow ridge on the end, which means you can fit the belt over. So you pull down on this, it gives you a very long stroke compared to other tool arrangements. And while you're pulling down on this, all you need to do is work that belt. Even a tight fitting belt will go over the bottom of that pulley, which you're looking right at. So for me, that's the only way I could finish this job. Good luck. If you do this job yourself, you'll save yourself about $500.